Hey, travel family, Alex here. Hey, before we start today's episode, we know how much this year has kind of created the storyteller in all of us. I can't imagine a year that we will tell stories about more than this one with everything that's gone on. So sit back, relax, join us. Do a little travel dreaming with us so that you can enjoy this holiday season. We look forward to having you. Welcome to another episode of Babcia and Yia Yia Travel the World. It's a place where we like to spend some time talking about all things travel and how travel could be part of your lifestyle, whether you're hanging out at home or you've got boarding passes in your hands. My name is Alex and I play the Babcia role in all of this. As always, I'm here with my bestie, Terri.
That's right. Yaya's here, and today we're going to be chatting about one of the best aspects of travel, storytelling. We are
Yay!
totally ready to give you the inside track to most of your travels. We've got some helpful tips and great stories to share with you. And like always, we're going to share things that keep us travel happy. We're going to talk books, food, tips, and products that we love. And it's all going to start with our little segment we like to call Now Boarding.
So, this week in Now Boarding, we're kicking things off with things that help us appreciate storytelling. Because, in my opinion, and I know you agree with me, storytelling is probably one of the most integral parts of how your trip kind of plays out. The more storytelling you're involved with, the better they are. So, my buddy, Rick
My
Steve.
buddy. Yep.
Yep. He has a brand new storytelling book out. It's called For the Love of Europe. And it is all of his most famous stories kind of written out. A great retrospective of all the places that he's enjoyed and the people that he's gotten to know. So, definitely a storytelling pick. What about you?
Okay, I'm going to go back and I'm going to pull out American Tall Tales by
Mm.
Mary Pope Osborne. Who doesn't love those tall tales of Paul Bunyan and Babe the Blue Ox?
Oh, and John
I mean,
Henry.
John Henry. There's Johnny Appleseed. And, I do think storytelling is an art form. I
Yes.
really do. And this is a great book that has some of those great tall tales that you used to hear, that I used to hear when I was a kid. So
Yes.
it's great.
Now, what travel tip do you have for us this week when it comes to storytelling?
Be your own storyteller. That's what I
Mhm.
say. Make up stories at famous places, video it, you can get that video rolling. And let's say you're at a castle. Well, tell the story about the princess that lives in the castle. So I think that's a great idea to get the start of storytelling.
And make it a centerpiece for your travel. Yes.
Oh yeah. What about you?
Okay, I truly believe that engaging tour guides that are storytellers can be well worth your money. A lot of people are kind of very DIY and they'll rely on technology to kind of come up with what the story is at the place that they're at. However, I have to tell you, there are some places in the world where an audio guide is just not going to cut it. And I'll give you an example. The example that I think of immediately is Normandy, France. When you go to Normandy, you want somebody to kind of bring you through the play by play of what really happened as you're standing in the same place that history happened. And I have to say, I think that those moments, which can be chill bump inducing, are so worth your money and create memories that are just, you can't find them any other way. Any other way. Now, tell me, what are you travel binging that has some good storytelling uh, aspects to it?
Okay. Samantha Brown's Places to Love.
Mhm.
She's a travel guru. We all know, right? But this is great. You can go, they're 30-minute episodes, and one day you can be in Budapest, Hungary,
Mhm.
and the next you could be in the Florida Keys.
Yes.
I mean, and great stories. Great stories. And I think that's something that I've been enjoy binge watching lately.
Yeah, and I love it. It's kind of like her travel show is each one has kind of a thesis of why it's a place to love. And she
Yes.
always ties it back to that, which is so cool. So my travel binge lately, travel wise, has been the Radio Vagabond podcast. This podcast has actually been around for quite some time, and the host is a digital nomad. So he does not have a permanent home. He just kind of lives his life on the road and enjoys it so much. And he brings you into that kind of temporary local state of mind, which is such a cool way to include storytelling in there. He's a fabulous storyteller. But I have to tell you about another podcast. I'm going to go completely off script and out of the travel realm. Are you ready?
You're digressing, aren't you?
I am going to digress because I am obsessed with this podcast over the past couple of weeks. It's called True Crime Obsessed, and it is all about all of these crazy crimes that have been committed. I am telling you, I have been in my car. I'm sure the people who pulled up to me at the red light are like, what is her problem? Because I'm laughing and crying at the same time. Lots of tragic things happen, but their take on how the people react to everything is an amazing thing. So, digression over, we're back. We're back into the travel world. Tell me about your travel tech when it comes to storytelling.
I just have to tell you, that was a great example of storytelling right there.
Thank you.
Yeah. Mine is a Nat Geo article, and it was on their digital media platform, and it was the importance, it's on storytelling, but why it's so important.
Mhm.
And oh, it was great. It's a great little quick article.
It is, and it'll kind of give you maybe a little bit of inspiration. I love that. Now,
Yeah.
I will tell you, I came across this amazing woman who lives in Madrid, Spain. Her name is Drika, and she does virtual storytelling experiences right now with people who can't travel because of everything that's going on with the pandemic. And I will say, she was amazing. The one that I attended was called a virtual dinner at the Prado, which is that incredible fine arts museum in the center of Madrid. And she used the paintings as like one painting was the appetizer, the next painting was the fish course, the next painting. And as she was bringing us through artwork piece after artwork piece that are in the Prado, she was telling us about the history of not only why the painting was made and the fine arts aspect of it, but also the historical aspect of it. She was brilliant. So we're going to leave a link to her in our show notes below. So, Terri, today we're talking all about storytelling, and this is probably one of my favorite topics for travel ever because I think it's what kind of made me a storyteller.
Oh, I agree. And I love hearing your stories.
There are some really silly moments and some poignant moments out there when you travel, and I do think that they're totally worth it. So, I thought today this is what we could do. Why don't you be the teacher in this? And I'll be a bit of the storyteller in this. And this is what I mean. You talk about the storytelling technique, and I'll add a little something to kind of give an example. Does that sound
I
like a good
like
idea?
it. I
Okay.
like it. I can play a teacher role.
All righty.
All right, here we
Ready?
go.
Play.
That's right. Okay, eyes on me. Here you go. This is our first technique.
Okay.
Using storytelling to gain context in your destination.
I think this is really great for the younger crowd, big time, because it can be very hard to get kids engaged in things when they have no context to go on. Like, okay, so it's a whole bunch of marble rocks in Greece. But let's say you're in a place like Philippi,
Oh,
and
yeah.
if you kind of have had a chance to do some storytelling, you might be able to tell a story like, here we are in Philippi, which is basically a whole bunch of marble rocks laying around. However, this is one of the greatest cities in ancient times. And it's here that Saint Lydia was baptized. She was the first European to be baptized. She was the seller of purple cloth, and she was baptized in this river that we're standing at. And then you sit down and put your feet in the river. Come on.
Yeah, perfect.
It's amazing. It's amazing. And like you've totally brought the whole thing to life.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Next technique or some information.
Hmm.
Destinations that are rich with storytelling. Because I know some places are more than the other.
Hmm.
What are destinations that are rich in storytelling?
Well, I would say one of the best is Scotland, so much so that they actually have a storytelling festival. Like,
Oh, so cool.
the International Storytelling Festival is there. Like, that's kind of on my bucket list to go and experience that. I think it's that amazing. I mean, it's the English language that gave us the term once upon a time. So, I mean, take that as you will, but yeah,
Yeah.
it kind of really puts it into play.
Okay. Passing storytelling traditions on to younger generations. I think that's so important to keep it alive, to keep the stories alive.
Mhm. Well, you think about it, storytelling was the way so much was kept alive because of oppression. We look at the amazing stories and hymns that are in the Black community in the United States that came out of slavery.
Mhm.
But there are other places where that is just as prominent. For example, the story of Giant's Causeway in Ireland is amazing. There's a great book um, that's called um, Finn McCool, the Giant of Knockmoney Hill. An amazing Tommy DePola book, but it was really an oral storytelling story for so long. And basically, it explains why the Giant's Causeway exists in the north of Ireland. And the story goes something like this. Finn McCool was the giant that was in Ireland, and a horrible giant also lived in Scotland, just 13 miles away. And one day, the giant in Scotland wanted to come pick a fight with the giant in Ireland because he wanted to be the best giant that was around. Poor Finn was shaking in fear because of his unbelievable fear of this bigger, well bested giant from Scotland. Well, Finn's wife, Una, said, "No worries, Finn, dear. Just put on these clothes and go get into the bed over there." So Finn did as his wife said, in um, and coming across the causeway by throwing in pillars of rock to make a bridge was the giant from Scotland. He came up to the house on top of Knockmoney Hill, not too far away, and pounded on the door. And Una comes, invites him in and says, "Well, my husband's not here for you to do battle with. However, you can meet my wee baby. Just keep your voice down." And he looked over at the cradle where secretly Giant Finn was pretending to be asleep and turned white with fear because if that was the baby, what in the world would his father look like? Suffice it to say, the giant turned right around, pulling up every stone pillar back to Scotland, and what's left is what we now visit as Giant's Causeway.
Yay! That's a great story.
Amazing story, and a great story to tell before you get there or while you're right there sitting on those hexagonal pillars.
Yeah.
And may I say, I told that story to my mother and not my children, and it was my mother who enjoyed it more than anybody else. So
Ah,
don't think it's just for kids.
no. So when you go on trips,
Mm.
a lot of times your guides are great storytellers.
I think they're amazing storytellers. I have to say, we had an incredible experience in France with a storyteller that didn't even know he was one. We were down in the Meuse-Argonne at a World War I American cemetery, and the director of the cemetery found out that we had a relative that was buried there. It was my great uncle, and very, very kindly brought us into the reception room and proceeded to pull out original maps from the battle that took my uncle's life. And step by step, took us through the events of the day and showed us exactly where he probably lost his life, and really made like this incredible impactful story come to life before we went to go visit our relative. And I so appreciate that. It made it all the more real to kind of like the drive back, and it was very poignant and amazing that this guy took all of this time to show us the original maps from that day at battle and everything that kind of went with it. Really an incredible experience. And I will say, I think those things happen at places all over the world. You know, Normandy, you could certainly hire a guide there. If you must have a guide in other areas, like Auschwitz needs a guide. So I would definitely say, if it, it brings it to life to have somebody who's a professional and really knows the story of where you are.
And I think that brings us, you mentioned Auschwitz,
Hmm.
and I do believe that the storytellers can teach us.
Yes. Um, so Auschwitz is one of those places where you don't get to go without a guide the majority of the time, and rightfully so. The people who volunteer at Auschwitz are descendants of victims of Auschwitz in one way or another. I had an incredible guide whose name was Agnetha, and her grandfather was a child laborer in one of the warehouses in the area. She was from the local area, and she brought us through the entire story. You know, sometimes stories can be overwhelming. I think about like the killing fields in in Southeast Asia, or the slave trade. They're overwhelming stories that maybe you're not ready to kind of comprehend all at once. And storytellers can really be the key to kind of keeping the story steady so that you can intake everything that you're
You're
experiencing,
right.
and it becomes that teachable moment instead of just, yep, I went there, I saw it, and I left, which
Yeah,
is the worst kind of travel that there is.
I agree. Now, what about when I've done ghost tours and walking
Mhm.
tours, and I do find that you get some really great storytelling.
Well, I love the idea of kind of making up stories based on things that have happened in history and kind of weaving it together into something that's unique and entertaining. And we're finding that more and more and more super creative people that enjoy this kind of storytelling idea. One of them is the Night Watchman's Tour in Nuremberg, which is becoming a very popular tour. And I think it's totally worth it. You know, I mean, why not have some fun, laugh a little, enjoy a little?
Yeah.
It exists everywhere. Yeah.
What about becoming your own storyteller, which I think we all need to try to do?
Well, I think that's the goal in the end, isn't it?
Yeah.
Is to be able to relate those stories in a, a witty and pithy way, so that we all kind of enjoy everybody else's travels as much as we enjoy our own. And one of the most famous of becoming your own storyteller is kissing the Blarney Stone. So so let me set the stage for you. This stage is, you walk up to this keep, this castle keep in Ireland, which is a huge oral storytelling tradition. It's just, it was a way of life for so long, because of oppression. And you walk up this keep and you circle and wind all the way up to the top, 10 stories up, and two guys at the top look at you. Their names are probably Patty and maybe Seamus, I would say, are their names.
O'Malley. O'Malley.
O'Malley. And they've been there for absolutely since Jesus was a boy. And they say, just lay down right here. We've got you, no problem. Well, let me tell you about where you're about to lay down. You're about to lay down on the ground, and they are going to stick you down a hole about 3 feet to let you kiss that Blarney Stone. The problem is that to kiss that Blarney Stone in that hole, there's no bottom to the hole. The bottom of the hole is the ground, 10 stories down. And you are going to let out a string of curse words like you've never let out, because the only thing stopping Patty and Seamus O'Malley from dropping you are the two little rusty pieces of rebar that are right there. So you go down, you kiss, you come back up, and apparently you're supposed to have the gift of the gab, which I have to agree with. I think that that's true. And you go and you kiss the Blarney Stone, and you should be able to become a storyteller at this point. You're going to become a storyteller because all the stories that were in your life flash by you in the instant that you think you're going to go through that hole. I promise you. So I would say that that is a very good, it's the fast pass to storytelling. I will tell you that much.
Storytelling 101.
Oof.
Oh.
It's a graduate's degree, that one. Oh man. Yeah.
So now let's switch gears on storytelling. And what about music in storytelling?
Well, I think that you'll find a lot of storytelling happens in music. Not as much in modern music today as maybe the American folk music time.
Right, right.
And I will say this, I feel like storytelling for Americans is probably far more prevalent as a craft in the British Isles, in Ireland and
Mm-hmm.
in Great Britain, because we share the same language. But I would say that it exists across the globe, um, just in a different language, and which could be a bit hard to kind of deal with. So take that for what it is. So I think we tend to think about that. Irish music is definitely a storytelling art. Everything is about a funny story, a sad story, a story of historical significance, a story of we're going to rise up and everything for freedom kind of stories. Very, very much similar to the American folk music of the 60s and 70s.
Yeah.
They're very much intertwined. So I think music is an incredible place to go. As a matter of fact, I on my last trip to Ireland, I created a Shutterfly book, and instead of writing like information in it, I was taking song lyrics and matching it to the place that they were, because it was so prevalent for the things that we were feeling. It was better than my own words at that point.
Oh,
So
yeah.
yeah, so I think that the power of storytelling is kind of in every aspect of our travel. It's up to us as travelers to find the opportunities for it.
Yes.
The travel industry has taken quite a blow from several global issues, including the war in Ukraine, the COVID 19 crisis, and inflation, that makes it hard for people to get out into the world like they want to. At this point, leading experts are predicting that it is going to take up to 3 years for the travel industry to bounce back to full force. One way that you can help is to like and subscribe to 10 microbloggers. Start with us. You can like and subscribe to our podcast and our website so that you can tell the travel industry that people are still interested in travel. So, Terry, how can listeners get a hold of us?
We'd like to hear from you. Contact us at babcianyaya@gmail.com with your questions, suggestions, favorite travel tips, products, and travel trends so that we can share your ideas in the future. You can find us on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, and LinkedIn. Here you go, guys. Babci and Yaya. Babcia and YIA.
Babcianyaya.com is the home base for everything that we love about travel. And it's where we store our show notes as well as many of the resources that we offer to our travel community, including travel literacy for the kiddos. We always have new posts about all the things we love and about all the travel we're up to, including today's topic, as well as features on destinations, travel lifestyle, and stories to make you smile.
Don't- Didn't get all that? Just check out our show notes for all of the ways to stay in touch and links to anything we chatted about in this episode. As always, thanks for joining us for our journey.